My name is Olivia. I am 27 years old. I live with my mother, my father, and my younger brother. My brother's name is Mark. He is 23 years old. We live in a small house in a quiet town. We are a close family, and we always care for each other. Yesterday morning, I saw Mark in bed. He did not look well. His face was pale, and he did not smile. I walked into his room and asked, "Mark, are you okay?" He shook his head and said in a weak voice, "No, I feel very bad." I sat on the side of his bed. He told me that he felt sick since the night before. He had nausea, a headache, and coughing. He also had diarrhea and felt very tired. I put my hand on his forehead. It was warm. I felt worried. I went to the kitchen and told my father and mother, "Mark is very sick." My father looked serious. He said, "We must take him to the doctor." My mother made tea and gave Mark water. She told him to drink slowly. Mark could not drink much. He lay down again. I could see he was weak. My father got the car ready. He said, "I will drive Mark to the doctor now." I helped Mark stand up. He walked slowly to the car. He looked tired, and I felt afraid. My father opened the car door. Mark sat down, and then they left. I stayed home with my mother. I waited and looked at the clock many times. The minutes felt very long. After 1 hour, my father and Mark came back. Mark walked into the house slowly. He went straight to his room and lay down again. My father told us what happened. He said, "The doctor checked Mark. The doctor said it is food poisoning. Mark is already weak because he lost water from his body. The doctor said this is dangerous. He must rest, and he must take strong medicine 2 times a day." My mother asked, "What food made him sick?" Mark said softly, "I ate a kebab yesterday when I was in town. After I ate it, I felt strange. In the night, I became worse." My mother sighed and looked worried. She said, "We must be more careful with food." I sat beside Mark. He looked at me and whispered, "I feel very bad, Olivia." I cannot move much. I touched his hand. I said, "Do not worry. We will help you. Just rest and take the medicine." In the afternoon, my mother gave Mark the first tablet. She put water on the table. Mark drank the water slowly and took the tablet. He closed his eyes again. My father went to the pharmacy to buy more medicine. My mother stayed in the kitchen to cook light soup. She said Mark must eat soft food. I stayed in the room with my brother. I watched him sleep. His breathing was heavy, and he sometimes coughed. I felt sad. I remembered when we were small children. Mark always laughed and ran in the garden. He was strong and happy. Now he lay weak in bed. I thought, I hope he becomes well soon. When my father came back, he brought a small bag. He said, "The doctor gave me more tablets. Mark must take them in the morning and evening." My mother brought the soup and put it near Mark. She woke him and said, "Please eat a little." Mark ate 2 small spoons, then stopped. He said he could not eat more. My mother told him, "That is okay. Rest now." In the evening, my father and I sat in the living room. He looked tired. He said, "I was afraid when I saw Mark today. He looked too weak." I agreed. I said. I was afraid too. But he is young. He will get better. My father nodded slowly. At night, I went to Mark's room again. He was awake. He whispered, I feel hot and cold. I cannot sleep. I put a wet cloth on his forehead. He closed his eyes and said, Thank you. I sat on the chair near his bed until midnight. Then I went to my room, but I could not sleep well. I kept thinking about him. The next morning, I woke early. I went to Mark's room. He was still in bed. He looked very tired. My mother brought him water and the morning tablet. He drank slowly. My father said, We must watch him all day. He must drink water. We must be careful. I sat beside Mark again. I said, Do you want to talk? He whispered, I feel too tired to talk. I smiled softly and said, Okay, just rest. I read a book beside him while he slept. Later in the day, my mother and father talked in the kitchen. My mother said, What if Mark does not get better soon? My father replied, The doctor said the medicine will help. We must wait and be patient. I listened to their voices. I felt the same worry. In the afternoon, Mark woke up. He said, My head still hurts. My body feels weak, but I think the tablet helps a little. My mother smiled and said, That is good. Just keep taking it. We gave him more soup in the evening. He ate a few more spoons than before. My father said, Good, you eat a little more. This will help you. Mark smiled weakly. I felt some hope in my heart. That night I stayed with him again. He said, Olivia, thank you for sitting here. I do not like to be alone when I feel sick. I said, I am your sister. I will always be here. I watched him sleep again. I thought about how quickly health can change. One day we feel fine, and the next day we feel sick. I understood how important it is to take care of each other. I went to sleep late again, but I did not mind. Mark needed care, and our family gave him care. That made me feel strong. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The next morning was quiet. I woke early and went to Mark's room. He was still in bed, and he looked tired. His face was pale, and he spoke slowly. He said, I still feel weak. I gave him water and helped him sit up. My mother came in with his medicine. She said, Here is the morning tablet. Drink with water. Mark took it, then lay down again. My father had to go to work, but before he left, he told me, Stay near Mark today. Watch him carefully. Call me if he feels worse. I said yes. My father kissed my mother on the cheek and left. My mother stayed busy in the kitchen. She wanted to make light food for Mark. She said, He must eat little by little. I sat with Mark and read my book again. Sometimes he slept, and sometimes he opened his eyes. He asked me to close the curtains because the light hurt his eyes. I closed them, and the room became darker and more quiet. I felt like the whole house was sick with him. At midday, my mother came with soup. She said, Mark, please eat some soup. It will help you. Mark sat up slowly, and I held the bowl for him. He ate 3 spoons and then said, I cannot eat more. My mother smiled gently and said, "That is okay. Try again later." She took the bowl back to the kitchen. In the afternoon, Mark whispered, "Olivia, can you tell me a story?" I smiled. I said, "Do you want a happy story?" He said yes. I told him about when we were children and went to the beach with our parents. I told him how he built a big sand castle and how the water washed it away. He laughed a little and said, "I remember that day." It made me happy to see him smile, even for a short time. Later, Mark felt cold. He asked for a blanket. I gave him 2 blankets and tucked him in. He closed his eyes. His breathing was slow, but he looked a little better than yesterday. I sat near him and thought about how strong he was. In the evening, my father came home. He asked, "How is Mark today?" I said, "He is still weak, but he ate a little and smiled." My father looked relieved. He went to Mark's room and sat with him. He said, "Son, you will be fine. Just be patient." Mark said softly, "I will try." That night, Mark needed his evening tablet. My mother gave it to him. He drank water and then lay down. I asked, "Do you feel better?" He said, "Maybe a little. My head does not hurt so much." I felt happy to hear that. I hoped tomorrow would be better. The next day, the sun was bright. I opened the window a little to let in fresh air. Mark said, "Thank you. I like the fresh air." He sat up for the first time in many hours. He drank water without help. He even looked out of the window and said, "It feels good to see the sky." My mother smiled. She said, "You are getting stronger." At lunchtime, Mark ate half a bowl of soup. My mother was surprised. She said, "That is very good. Soon you will eat normal food again." Mark smiled weakly. My father came home early from work that day. He was glad to see Mark sitting up. He said, "This is progress." In the afternoon, Mark told me, "I think the medicine is helping me." I feel less sick. I felt relief. I said, "That is good news." You must continue to take it. But later that evening, Mark felt pain again. He held his stomach and said, "It hurts." My mother and father became worried again. My father asked, "Do we need to call the doctor again?" My mother said, "Maybe we should wait one more night." I sat near Mark and gave him water. He drank slowly. He whispered, "I hope this pain goes away." That night, Mark could not sleep. He turned in bed many times. I stayed awake with him. I told him, "Try to breathe slowly. It will help." He tried, but he still felt pain. Finally, near midnight, he closed his eyes and slept. I sat on the chair until morning. The next morning, Mark woke up looking a little better. He said, "I feel less pain now." My mother gave him the morning tablet. He ate a piece of bread with tea. It was the first solid food he ate in days. My father smiled and said, "That is a good sign." During the day, Mark even walked to the living room. He sat on the sofa for 10 minutes. He said, "I am still weak, but I want to move a little." My mother put a blanket over him. She said, "You must not get cold." Mark laughed softly and said, "Yes, Mother." We spent the afternoon together in the living room. Mark listened as my father told stories from his work. I read aloud from my book. Mark said, "It feels good to sit with all of you." We smiled and stayed together until evening. In the evening, Mark went back to bed. He looked tired, but he was better than before. He said, "Thank you, Olivia, for staying near me these days." I said, "You are my brother. I will always stay near you." That night, I slept in my own room, but I felt calmer. I knew Mark was slowly healing. I thought about how important family is when someone is sick. Without family, sickness feels harder, but with family, even sickness feels less heavy. The next morning, Mark woke earlier than usual. He asked for breakfast. My mother gave him porridge with milk. He ate most of it. We all looked at him with surprise. My father said, "This is very good. Soon you will be strong again." Mark smiled. After breakfast, Mark walked to the garden with me. He said, "I want to feel the sun." We sat on a bench. The air was fresh, and the sun was warm. Mark closed his eyes and said, "This feels wonderful." I looked at him and felt happy. That afternoon, Mark slept again, but his sleep was peaceful. He did not cough so much, and he did not look in pain. My mother whispered to me, "I think he will be well soon." I whispered back, "Yes, I think so too." That night my father said, "We must continue to be careful. Mark must rest for some more days. He cannot go out or eat street food for a while." We all agreed. Mark said, "I will be careful." I looked at him and thought about how hard these days were. I thought about the fear we felt, but now I also felt hope. Mark was getting better, and our family was stronger because we cared for each other. The next few days passed slowly. Each morning I went into Mark's room. Every day he looked a little better. His face was less pale, and his eyes looked brighter. He drank more water and ate more food. He even spoke with more energy. My mother said, "The medicine is working. Soon he will be strong again." On the 4th day, Mark asked if he could sit in the garden again. My father helped him walk outside. Mark sat on the bench and looked at the trees. He said, "I feel fresh air. I missed this." I sat beside him and we watched the birds together. I felt happy because he was not lying weak in bed anymore. That evening, we all ate dinner together at the table. It was the first time in many days that Mark joined us. He ate slowly, but he ate almost a full bowl of soup. My mother smiled and said, "I am so proud of you." My father said, "Soon you will eat like before." Mark laughed softly. I felt relief. The next morning, Mark woke early. He said, "I want to take a shower. I feel ready." My mother helped prepare warm water. Mark came out later with clean clothes. He said, "I feel new." I looked at him and saw color on his face again. He was healing. That afternoon, Mark walked around the house without help. He said, "My legs are still weak, but I can walk." My father told him, "Walk slowly. Do not hurry." Mark agreed. We all felt joy to see him moving on his own again. In the evening, Mark told us, "I thought a lot when I was sick. I felt scared. I worried I would not get better." My mother touched his hand and said, "You are safe now. You are strong, and you are not alone." We are always with you." I felt warm in my heart when she said that. The next day, Mark ate bread, cheese, and tea for breakfast. He smiled and said, "I think I can eat normal food again." My father said, "Good, but no street food for now." Mark laughed and said, "Yes, no more kebabs." We all laughed with him. In the afternoon, Mark helped me water the plants in the garden. He held the small watering can and said, "This feels good. I want to do normal things again," I said. "Step by step. You will be strong soon." In the evening, Mark sat with us in the living room. We watched television together. He looked more like his old self. I thought about the days when he was weak and pale in bed. I felt thankful that those days were over. 2 more days passed. Mark was now much stronger. He even helped my mother set the table for dinner. He carried plates carefully and smiled at her. She said, "It feels good to see you standing again." On the 7th day, my father said, "Mark, let us go back to the doctor. He must check you again." Mark agreed. My father drove him to the clinic. I stayed home with my mother and waited. After 1 hour, they returned. My father came in with a smile. He said, "The doctor says Mark is healing well. He must finish the medicine, but soon he will be fully strong." We all felt joy. That night, Mark sat on his bed and spoke with me. He said, "Olivia, thank you for staying with me every night. You did not leave me alone." I said, "You are my brother. I could never leave you when you need me." Mark smiled and said, "I will always remember this." The next day, Mark walked to the shop with my father. It was only a short walk, but it was his first time outside the house in many days. When he came back, he said, "I feel free again." He brought bread and fruit, and he looked proud. On the 10th day, Mark helped my mother in the kitchen. He cut vegetables and stirred the soup. He said, "I want to be useful again." My mother said, "Be careful. Do not get too tired." Mark smiled and said, "I will stop if I feel weak." At dinner, we all sat together and ate. Mark laughed more than before. He told us a small joke, and we laughed too. The house felt bright again. I looked at my family and thought, this is the best gift. We are together, and we are safe. That night, before sleeping, I thought about everything. I remembered the first day when Mark looked pale and sick. I remembered the fear in my father's face. I remembered my mother's worry. I remembered sitting beside Mark in the night while he could not sleep. All of that was behind us now. I understood something important. Health is very precious. We do not think about it much when we feel fine, but when someone is sick, we see how valuable it is. I also understood how much family matters. Without family, Mark's sickness would have been harder. But because we stood together, we were strong. The next morning, Mark said, "I feel almost normal now. I want to go for a short walk outside the house." My father said, "Okay, but I will walk with you." They went together, and when they came back, Mark's cheeks were pink from the fresh air. He looked happy. In the afternoon, we sat in the living room again. Mark said, "This week was hard, but I learned something. I will be more careful with food. I will not eat food from the street when I do not trust it." My mother said, "That is wise." My father said, "Yes, health is more important than taste." That evening, I went to my room and wrote in my notebook. I wrote, "My brother was very sick. We were afraid, but we gave him care and love. Now he is better. I feel thankful for my family." The next day was Sunday. We all went to the park together. Mark walked slowly, but he enjoyed it. We sat on the grass and ate sandwiches that my mother made. Mark said, "This is the best food because it is safe and made with love." We all smiled and felt peace. When we came back home, I looked at Mark again. He was no longer weak or pale. He looked strong again. My heart felt light. I thought, this time is finished. We will remember it, but we will also move forward. That night, before sleeping, I said to myself, family care is strong. Illness comes and goes, but love stays. Love heals as much as medicine does. My name is Lynn. I was from Vietnam. My life once felt complete. I was young, I was happy, and I was in love. I had a man who cared for me. His name was Koa. He was my first love, and I thought he would be my last. We laughed together every day. We made plans for our future. We spoke about marriage and children. I trusted him with all my heart. But life did not go as I hoped. One cold night, Koa had an accident. He did not survive. I still remembered the sound of that phone call. My hands shook when I held the phone. I cried for days and nights. I felt like I lost my world. My family tried to help me, but nothing could bring back Koa. I thought my life was finished. I thought I could never love again. Time passed. A year later, my friends told me to move. They said I should study or work abroad. They said it might help me heal. I did not want to leave, but my heart was too heavy in Vietnam. Every street reminded me of him. Every corner was full of memories. So I made a choice. I decided to go to Belgium. Belgium was far from home. It was not easy to move. I said goodbye to my parents and my younger sister. At the airport, my mother hugged me and whispered, "Be strong, my daughter." I smiled, but my eyes were wet. I carried one suitcase, full of clothes, books, and memories. When I stepped onto the plane, I felt both afraid and hopeful. I did not know what waited for me. Life in Belgium was very different. The weather was cold, the streets were quiet, and the people spoke a language I did not know. At first I felt lonely. I missed my family, my food, my language. I worked hard to adjust. I went to language classes and found a small job in a shop. The days were long, but I tried to stay busy. At night, I still cried for Koa. I missed his voice, his touch, his smile. I wondered if love could ever return to me. One morning, my boss asked me to join a new project. It was about software training. That was when I met Mark. He was from Belgium. He was tall, with kind eyes. He was patient with me when I spoke slowly. He said, "Do not worry. You will learn." His smile was warm, and his words were soft. I felt safe when he spoke to me. At first, Mark was only a colleague. He helped me with my work. He explained rules. He showed me how to use new programs. He sometimes offered me coffee during breaks. I thanked him, but I kept my distance. I was afraid to open my heart. I still carried Koa inside me. I thought it was wrong to care for another man, but days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Mark started to share more. He told me about his family. He spoke of his mother who lived in a small town. He spoke of his dreams to travel to Asia one day. I listened quietly, but I enjoyed his stories. Slowly, I felt lighter. When I walked home after work, I sometimes smiled without reason. My heart was not as heavy as before. One evening, Mark asked me, "Do you want to join me for dinner?" I felt nervous. I said no at first, but later, I agreed. We went to a small restaurant near the city center. The lights were soft and the food was warm. We spoke about music, books, and our childhood. I laughed for the first time in a long time. Mark looked at me and said, "Your smile is beautiful." I felt shy, but my heart beat faster. That night when I went home, I sat on my bed and thought about Koa. I whispered his name. I felt guilt in my chest. I asked myself, is it wrong to smile with another man? Is it wrong to eat dinner with him? Tears came to my eyes. I loved Koa, but he was gone. I could not bring him back. I closed my eyes and cried softly. In the next weeks, Mark and I met more often. We went for walks in the park. We shared coffee on cold mornings. He showed me old buildings and told me the history of Belgium. I told him about Vietnam, the rivers, the rice fields, and the food. He laughed when I described the smell of fish sauce. "One day, I will try it," he said. We both laughed. But inside me, there was a war. Part of me wanted to open my heart again. Another part of me said no. It said, "You cannot love again. You will betray Koa." I carried this question every day. Could love really happen twice? Could a broken heart heal? One winter day, snow covered the streets. Mark and I walked together. My hands were cold. He gave me his gloves. "You need these more than me," he said. I looked at him. His face was calm. His eyes were gentle. My heart shook. I wanted to thank him, but no words came. I only whispered, "Thank you." That night, I could not sleep. I kept thinking of Mark. I remembered his gloves, his smile, his care. I also remembered Koa's face, his laugh, his love. I felt like I was between two worlds. One was past, one was present. I asked myself, can I really move on? Or must I stay with the memory of the man I lost? As days passed, I started to notice more about Mark. He was kind, but also strong. He worked hard. He cared about people. He once helped an old woman carry her bags in the snow. He once stayed late at work to help a new colleague. I saw his heart, and it touched me. But the guilt inside me never left. I spoke to my friend Mai, who lived in France. She said, "Lynn, Koa is gone. You cannot live in the past forever. It is not betrayal to love again. It is life." Her words gave me courage. Mark asked me again, "Do you want to spend more time together?" This time, I said yes without fear. We started to meet often. We shared meals, books, and music. I began to feel something new. It was not the same as with Koa. but it was warm, real, and present. My heart felt alive again. Still, deep down, I wondered, was this love, or was it just comfort? Could I truly love Mark the way I once loved Koa? These questions stayed with me, even as I walked beside Mark, even as I smiled at him. The story of my past was not finished, and the story of my present was only beginning. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. After some months, Mark and I were close. We were not only friends now, we spent time together after work. We spoke on the phone at night. Sometimes he waited for me at the shop and walked me home. I felt safe when he was near. I liked the sound of his laugh. I liked the way he cared. Mark soon told me about his past. He had been in a long relationship before. It had ended badly. He said he felt broken for a long time. He said he thought he could never trust again. I looked at him with surprise. His pain was different from mine, but I understood it. We were both trying to heal. We were both learning to open our hearts again. One weekend, he took me to his mother's house. She lived in a small town outside the city. The house was simple, but warm. His mother smiled at me. She welcomed me with tea and cake. She spoke slowly because she knew my language skills were not strong. I felt shy, but I was happy she was kind. Mark's mother asked me many questions. She wanted to know about my country, my family, and my life. I told her about Vietnam, about the river near my home, about the sound of the morning market. She listened with interest. She said, "You are far from home, but you are strong." Her words touched me. When we left the house, Mark held my hand for the first time. My heart beat fast. I wanted to pull away, but I did not. I let his hand stay in mine. It felt warm. It felt real. That night, I cried in my room. Not because I was sad, but because I felt both guilty and hopeful. As months passed, Mark wanted more from me. He wanted me to stay in Belgium forever. He wanted me to think of our future together, but I was not sure. My heart was still tied to the past. I also missed my family in Vietnam. I did not know if I could stay in a foreign land all my life. One evening, we sat in a cafe. Mark looked serious. He said, "Lynn, I want to talk. I want to know if we have a future. I want to know if you will stay with me." His words made me quiet. I did not answer at once. I looked at the table. I said, "Mark, I care for you, but I am not sure. My heart is still not free. My family is far. I feel lost." Mark sighed. His face looked sad. He said, "I understand, but it is hard for me. I want you in my life. I want you to choose me." His words made me tremble. I felt pressure. I wanted to please him, but I also wanted to be honest. After that night, things changed a little. Mark was still kind, but I could feel his worry. He wanted me to move faster. I was not ready. I needed more time. He began to ask questions like, "Do you still love Koa?" And, "Am I only second place in your heart?" His voice was soft, but his eyes were full of pain. I did not know what to say. The truth was, I still loved Koa. I would always love him. but I also cared for Mark. My heart was divided. I felt tired. I felt heavy. Later, Mark asked me to meet his friends. We went to a dinner party. His friends were nice, but I felt different. They spoke fast in their own language. I smiled, but I did not understand much. I felt like an outsider. Mark tried to help me, but I still felt alone. That night when we went home, I told him, "Mark, sometimes I feel I do not belong here. Your friends, your world, it is not mine. I am not sure if I can live this life forever." Mark was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "If you love me, you will try." His words cut deep. They were not angry, but they felt heavy. I asked myself if I was ready to give up my country, my family, my language for him. I did not know the answer. One morning, I received a letter from my parents. They told me my sister was going to get married soon. They wanted me to come back home for the wedding. I felt joy when I read it, but I also felt sad. I told Mark about it. He frowned. He said, "If you go back, will you return here? Or will you stay there forever?" I told him I did not know. I wanted to see my family. I wanted to be part of my sister's big day. But I also knew that leaving Belgium, even for a short time, could break the bond with Mark. Mark grew more distant after that. He still met me, but he asked fewer questions. He smiled less. One evening, he said, "Lynn, I am afraid. I am afraid you will leave me. I am afraid you will never give me your whole heart." I looked at him and felt tears in my eyes. I whispered, "I am afraid too." That night, I lay in bed and thought of my life. On one side, I saw my past love, Koa. He was gone, but his memory lived inside me. On the other side, I saw Mark, who was real, alive, and waiting. I asked myself, can I let go of the past? Can I give my future to Mark? The answer did not come. The days grew colder. Winter returned. Snow fell again. I walked with Mark, but silence was often between us. He wanted more. I was not ready. My heart was split. Still, there was love in me. When I saw Mark laugh, I smiled. When I saw him sad, I wanted to hold him. But I also felt tired of the question inside me. Could love really happen twice? One evening, I looked at Mark and said, "I will go to Vietnam for my sister's wedding, but I will come back. I want to try. I want to see if we can have a future." Mark looked at me for a long time. Then he said, "I hope you are true." I left Belgium with a heavy heart. I kissed Mark goodbye at the airport. His eyes were full of hope and fear. My suitcase was full again. But this time, it was not only clothes. It was also the weight of choice, the question of love, and the fear of loss. When I arrived in Vietnam, my family was waiting for me at the airport. My mother hugged me and cried. My father smiled, but his eyes were wet. My sister laughed and held my hand. The house was full of voices, food, and love. I felt warm. I felt like a child again. During the days before the wedding, I helped my sister with clothes, flowers, and guests. We walked together in the market. We laughed at small things. For a while, I forgot my heavy heart. But every night, when I lay in bed, I thought of Mark. I wondered if he was sleeping, if he was missing me, if he still trusted me. The wedding day came. My sister looked beautiful in her dress. My family danced, sang, and ate together. Everyone smiled. But I stood in the corner for a while. I looked at my sister and her husband. I thought about my past. I thought about Koa. He was gone, but his love was still alive in me. I thought about Mark, waiting far away. I felt both joy and pain. After the wedding, my parents spoke to me. My mother asked, "Do you want to stay with us? We miss you. You can work here. You can live near us." My heart shook. I wanted to say yes. But then I remembered Mark. His eyes, his laugh, his care. I remembered how he gave me gloves in the snow. I remembered how he held my hand. That night I sat outside alone. The moon was bright. The air was warm. I thought about my life. I asked myself again, can love happen twice? I thought about Koa. He was my first love, but he was gone. I thought about Mark. He was real. He was here, waiting for me. Slowly, I felt the answer in my heart. Love could not replace love, but love could live again. I spoke to my parents the next day. I said, I will go back to Belgium. I will try to build a life there. I cannot promise forever, but I want to try. My mother looked sad, but she held my hand. She said, "Follow your heart, Lynn. We want you happy." When I returned to Belgium, Mark was waiting at the airport. His face looked tired, but when he saw me, his eyes grew bright. He came close and asked, "You came back?" I smiled softly and said, "Yes, I came back. I want to try." For a while, life felt better. We spent more time together. We went on small trips. We laughed again. I felt lighter. But soon, the questions returned. Mark wanted promises. He wanted to know if I would stay in Belgium forever. He wanted to know if I would marry him one day. One evening, he looked at me and said, "Lynn, I love you. I want you in my life forever. I need to know if you feel the same." His eyes were full of hope. My heart was full of fear. I looked at him and whispered, "I care for you. I love you too. But my love is not the same as yours. I cannot forget my past. I cannot give all of me." Mark was silent. His face grew pale. He stood up and walked to the window. He said, "I am not enough for you. You still live with your past. I cannot fight a man who is not alive." His voice was quiet, but his words were sharp. My eyes filled with tears. That night we did not speak much. The next days were heavy. Mark was kind, but distant. I tried to reach him, but he pulled away. One afternoon he told me, "Maybe we are not meant to be. Maybe we are too different." My heart broke again. I felt the same pain I had felt with Koa, but this time it was different. Mark was not gone. He was still here, but our love could not live. I left his home and walked in the snow. The streets were empty. The air was cold. My tears fell, but I kept walking. I whispered to myself. I tried to love again. But sometimes trying is not enough. In the weeks after, I lived alone. I worked. I studied. I spoke to my family on the phone. I thought about Mark often. I thought about his care, his laugh, his love. I missed him, but I also knew he wanted more than I could give. One evening, I sat in my small room and wrote in my diary. I wrote, I have loved twice. First, I loved Koa. That love ended with death. Second, I loved Mark. That love ended with distance and difference. Both loves were real. Both loves taught me something. Both loves made me strong. I closed the diarist and looked at the window. Snow was falling again. I felt pain, but I also felt peace. I knew I had tried. I knew I had opened my heart again, even when I thought it was not possible. Love can happen twice, but it may not last forever. Love can heal, love can hurt, but love always teaches. I was not the same girl who left Vietnam. I was stronger now. I had loved, I had lost, but I had lived, and that was enough for me.